Morning.
Alberto.
Hi, Stella.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. It's hot.
Hello, Christina and Gomathi. This is Carl. Can you hear me?
Hi, Carl. Yes.
Okay, good. Finally solved the problem. I'm driving.
Okay.
So
No worries.
So, Krishna, are we starting? Or should we wait?
I think
we should start now. Hi, Christina. Hi, Howard. Let's start. I think the others would join
yes.
in.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Let me just check if my host is here. So he's not here.
Uche, right?
No, which is not. There was
Alberto.
Alberto.
Okay.
Oh, I guess it's either if he can't join. Let me just go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, we didn't know it's now. Wait, I think he missed the time. He said now? Anyway, maybe he'll be joining in a while. So, oh, there he goes. So, there's my host. There's our host,
Hi, Alberto.
Alberto. There's our host. Yeah. Okay, you're on mute, Alberto. You're muted.
I tell you what, I almost missed this meeting because of a confusion with the times over here. I apologize, really.
We can't get on. We can't get it back on the freeway. Okay, figure out how to get there.
Yeah. Well, but now I'm here.
Okay, so let's start. Good evening, good morning,
We'll
good
figure
day,
out how to get
everyone.
back on.
Yeah.
Just redo the GPS.
Okay, Carl is trying to look for his location.
He is driving, yeah.
I know.
What?
Okay, you can. Okay. Okay, again, hello everyone. So finally, we have our host here. Okay, my best friend in Rotary now. Okay, and thank you for coming over here for attending this webinar. It's going to be a very interesting topic. And so to start with, I would like to introduce to you Alberto Palombo from Brazil. He's always hosting most of my events, and we've been doing a lot of events before during COVID. That's why we become really good friends. Alberto, wait, let me just check I have to introduce Alberto to you. Where is it? Hold on. Apologies for that. Okay, Alberto is an industrial and systems engineer by training with graduate studies in systems engineering and operations research and doctoral studies in integrated water resources management for 38 years. He has focused on issues related to water environment and regional development, the integration of information and knowledge, and the promotion of new businesses and processes based in digital innovation and technology to pursue sustainable development and climate change adaptation. He is currently a small farmer driven by science, technology, and innovation. He has worked as a consultant for United Nations agencies, multilateral development banks, national and international organizations, and private companies in Angola, Argentina, Austria, Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Guatemala, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Portugal, South Africa, Spain, United States, and Venezuela. Alberto is the CEO and partner in Fomenta X Limited, a company that promotes business intelligence and digital marketplace platforms for connecting entrepreneurship, science, innovation, and investments for sustainability based in Brasilia, with international connections with development banks, venture capital, and angel investors across Latin America and United States, Europe, and Asia. Alberto offers his volunteer work through Rotary International. He's a charter member of the Rotary Club of Brasilia International in District 4530 in Brazil. Currently, he is serving as technical coordinator for the environment of the cadre of technical advisors of the Rotary Foundation until 2026. He is also active in the Rotarian Action Groups for Water and Sanitation, WashRag, Environment and Sustainability, MSRAG, for Community and Economic Development, RAGCED, and the Rotary Means Business Fellowship. In 2022, he served as Vice Chair of the Presidential Conference on Water, Environment, and Disease Prevention under the auspice of RI past President Sheikha Mehta and past Director and now President nominee Mario Cesar Martins de Camargo. Born in Venezuela and now living in Brasilia, Brazil, with his lifelong partner Maria do Carmo Sinato, also known as Kaka, who is also dedicated Rotarian. Alberto has 3 entrepreneurs offsprings in the next generation, David, Daniel, and Julian, who now lives in the United States. So that's Alberto's story. Okay. Alberto, welcome. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to host this program. Okay, so now I'll give the table to you. Thank you.
Christina, thank you very much for that kind and long introduction. I promise to send you the short version later, okay? Because we are here among Rotary friends and we should be talking about what we're doing and what we're going to do. Yes, been working for a long time. I am a little because of now involved also with diversity, equity, and inclusion. I need to say that I am bald. I have lost all my hair, because of all the experiences, good and not so good in the performance of my professional career, but also, in dealing with communities and bringing good to the world through Rotary. Part of my baldness is also because of Rotary, but that's a good one. Okay, and I also have to say to everybody that I have here my two bosses. Okay, my boss, Christina Kalagian, I always call her the boss because we are part of a group of Rotarians that most of us do not know each other personally, but we are already close friends because this marvelous technology that we learned in Rotary during the pandemic of COVID-19. And some of them are here. My other boss is also present, Maria do Carmo, is around here somewhere. I don't know if she has already joined in, but so I need to be very careful with the way I conduct myself and how to manifest how do I express my feelings towards everybody here. I love you all because you are my dear Rotarian fellows, and we are all trying to do good in the world. And RAGCED is really one of the Rotarian action groups that is very close to my heart. I mean, now it's Carl, before was Margaret, and before it was Jim. And we also, with some of them, I have met personally because we were in the Sao Paulo Rotary International Conference together. And that is when I became very aware of the work of RAGCED. And because we are also here in our community propelling microfinancing, and RAGCED has an excellent program helping communities to microfinancing and promoting network and mentoring for entrepreneurs. And that brings me, to the subject that we are dealing today, because we have not only Carl. Is Carl here already?
Yes, he's
Carl
joined us.
here.
Where
Bona
is he?
is here. He's driving.
Oh, he's driving. Okay, okay. But should I introduce him first? Is he going to be doing-
Bonaventure will give the welcome remarks. Bona,
Oh,
our
okay.
RI area
Okay.
of focus manager.
Very good. So then, I have already talked a lot of our introduction as a host. So I will turn the word then to my good friend Bonaventure Fadohan of Rotary, our dear Rotarian, Rotary International staff person on the community economic development. So Bonaventure, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alberto. Thank you, Christina. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This month is the month of community economic development at Rotary Foundation. So it's a time for us to pause and ask ourselves what the foundation has done for poor and underserved communities around the world. It's time to ask ourselves if we have made any impact using the grant that Rotary Foundation provided us. It's time to us to pause and ask ourselves if there is something that we are not missing. Since 2014, the Rotary Foundation has invested in close to 1,749 grants for a total amount of $100.4 million US. It's a lot of money. And it's come from vocational training grant to a scholarship given to the students who want to become specialists of community economic development. So all of that is important because we're going to ask ourselves, if I have not done a global grant, if I have not done any project with community economic development, how can I do it? So asking that question, I will suggest to you to reach out to RAGCED members, to reach out to your cabinet, to reach out to your district and see if something can be done. I know as a teacher, it seems intimidating. It may seem like, okay, I'm afraid I never done it will be difficult. But we are open. We can tell you community economic development is your tool to make reputation international better in your own community, to raise the profile and to serve poor and underserved community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bonaventure. Your words are very well received. We need to really make sure that our investment in the Rotary Foundation is expressed through projects that are truly helping our communities. And all of us are caretakers, not only the cadre, but everybody, all Rotarians that are promoting projects. When they do their community assessments, as recommended by our methodology, if you will, for grants, we need to make sure that we know that we are providing appropriate solutions to those communities in need. And RAGCED is a key player in bringing that word to Rotarians. So I applaud the efforts that RAGCED is doing in promoting these seminars and bringing so many good people to share their ideas and their experience with us, in which we can find the inspiration to continue in our mission to unite communities and to make a better world. Is Carl here? Where's Carl?
Carl, can you unmute yourself, please?
Carl?
He's driving.
Okay, Carl is here. I see Carl.
Somehow my phone so I assume you can hear me now.
Yes.
We can. So I just wanted to make sure that you were here.
Okay.
So I don't.
Oh, I'm here. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I say things that are really related to you, and please, tell me if I'm not doing justice to reading your accomplishments as a Rotarian, as a person.
It's really unnecessary to do that.
Oh, but for the benefit of I see that there are so many Rotarians over here that are coming here for the first time that I don't recognize the names in the RAGCED webinar series. That I feel that is your introduction is in order, Carl.
No,
Carl,
no, really, I wouldn't worry about that. I'll simply say, hi, I'm Carl Treelevin. I'm the chair of RAGCED for this year and next year. And really, the more important thing is for us to get on with the program. So because that's really what we want to hear today. So welcome, and hopefully everyone finds this meeting very interesting and informative. And if you're new to RAGCED, we encourage you to visit our website at ragced.org and encourage you to join us and tell your fellow Rotarians all about that. With that, I turn it back to Alberto.
Thank you very much, Carol. But we should mention that Carol is also a recipient of the Rotary Service Above Self Award, which is a very meritorious recognition we get that Rotary offers to our fellows. And he's also Distinguished Service Award in his district as 6950 in 2009 and 10. Okay, but let's go to our main presentation today, which is we have a distinguished guest, and he is Howard Weinstein. Howard, thank you very much for being here with us. And I will read a bit of your very extensive resume, but Christina Angomati made an excellent work in the
Can,
summarizing.
can we share his video before you introduce him? It's a 2-minute video. Do you think?
Yes.
Let me try if I can do the share, and I hope it will
Oh,
play.
okay. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. And then I introduce him.
Yeah. Let me just check if I can do this. Can I do the screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Big screen. And can you tell me if you can hear me?
We can see your screen, but we're not listening to the video.
About 15 years ago, my healthy daughter, Sarah, suddenly died in the middle of the night. Went back to work the next week, and the company I work for fired me. I was lost. I figured I had these skills as a business person. Why not go as a volunteer to Africa? In a way, trying to give meaning to my daughter's death. According to the World Health Organization, there's about 600 million people who are hearing impaired. 2/3 of them live in developing countries. Yet only 12% of hearing aids go to these countries. The problem with hearing aids is not only the cost of a hearing aid, but the price and accessibility of a hearing aid battery. Battery costs about $1 and lasts about a week. One of the common features in developing countries is the sun is free. Why not use that energy to recharge a battery? So what we did is, with our workers who are deaf, we designed the first rechargeable hearing aid battery that costs the same as a regular battery, but lasts 2 to 3 years. We can make a hearing aid and sell it at a profit for under $100. And the average hearing aid in the United States, for example, is anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000, and they're buying from the same sources I do. Carl Jung, the great philosopher, once said, "You want people to see their shadow, and then realize the light is coming from them." And that's what I do with our workers who are deaf around the world. Our program is about opportunity, about seeing your own shadow.
Well, thank you very much, Christina. Unfortunately, we cannot see the video in movement. We heard Howard's voice describing the hearing aid project that he designed and support. And I think that at this time, I want to make the appropriate introduction of our guest speaker today. Howard Stein, for 25 years, he ran an international successful plumbing manufacturing business based in Montreal, Canada. And through life events, he went to work as a volunteer in Africa, helping to start sustainable businesses for people with disabilities, as we saw in the video. And and he was able to replicate and expand the social business model in Brazil, China, and the Middle East. Through his work, he has won several technology, healthcare, innovation awards, as well as the AAA Humanitarian Award, as well as the Global Social Entrepreneur of the Year by WTN. Projects that he has worked on have been written about in Newsweek, National Geographic, and 20 other magazines in 6 countries, and products from some of the projects that he has helped develop and they have been shown at the Smithsonian, Alexander Graham Bell, and bottom of the Pyramid Museum in Japan. He has taught classes on social business at Harvard, Oxford, Duke, McGill University, and INSEAD. At any given time, he's also mentoring several young entrepreneurs and his great mentors were two young adults with Down syndrome. So Howard Weinstein is our main speaker today in this RAGCED seminar. And I know that his curriculum is much more extensive than this very short introduction that we provided here today. But Howard, we are more interested really in knowing how you did accomplish all that good work that for which you are famous from, and we have read in some of those distinguished publications. So the floor is yours, and we welcome you to this RAGCED webinar on social and economic development.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and thank you, Alberto. Just to let you know, Alberto, my barber in San Paulo, when I go there, I ask for the George Clooney haircut. So you may want to go to that barber too. It works for me, as you can see. Okay. So I'm basically a social entrepreneur, and I have helped start 10 different sustainable, community developed social businesses globally. I've worked with people who are deaf, people with Down syndrome, women with HIV/AIDS, women in wheelchairs, youth in a favela in Brazil, Palestinian refugees. You want to go back to the first slide? Sorry.
Just a moment. It's autoplay.
I've worked in Brazil, Africa, China, India, UAE. I've had some success and some spectacular failures. So this sort of presentation will sort of give you an outline of how I help start a community development project, as well as lessons I've learned and mistakes I have made. I'll use the example of Solarir as an example of a social business I helped start. So let me explain a social business to you from my perspective. Think of a game, a three-dimensional game of tic-tac-toe. In Brazil, we call it jogo de velha. I think in the UK, they call it noughts and crosses. So think of this, looking at this business in the 3 dimensions. The first level, you're running a sustainable professional business, where in each square you have your marketing department, your sales, your management, your finance, just like any other for-profit business. The second level is a social mission of the organization, with the center square being education. And at Solarir, we have a variety of different social missions. I'll discuss that a bit later. And the third level is the empowerment of our workers. So one day a week, we don't work. I want to go back one slide, Terry. There you go. One day we don't work, and we work on empowering, bringing confidence to our workers, regardless of who they are. And the key to running a good social enterprise is not just looking at and working at these 3 dimensions at any one time. It's how you replicate and scale all 3 levels globally. And I'll discuss how we do that a bit later on. So at Solarir, next slide. So the problem with hearing loss in the world is there's over 600 million people with a hearing loss. You put them together, it's the 3rd biggest country in the world. Yet only 3% of the world's population can afford or have access to hearing health. The problem, there's a few problems. One is the price of a hearing aid. And we actually started with the problem of a battery. Our workers who are deaf in Botswana were saying, hey, often we get hearing aids from different charities, but we can't afford to find a hearing aid battery. The other problem too is a lack of professionals to test somebody's hearing. And the other thing too is 80% of hearing loss occurs after birth, and 50% could be avoided by educating expectant mothers. So at Solarir, next slide. So here I'm going to talk about that first level of running a business. So we make by people who are deaf and invented by people who are deaf, and have the problem with deafness and what they needed. The first low-cost rechargeable hearing aid. They invented a solar charger, and we make a profit from that. We mark everything up 50%. So we're able to make a hearing aid charger and batteries for about $100. It costed me $50. And the exact same products, because we buy from the same source as our competitors, they sell it for $2,000 to $20,000. Because our mission is if you can get a child a hearing aid before the age of 3, she can learn to hear, then speak, and then go to a public school. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the ideas came from 10 women who are deaf in rural Botswana. Every project I start, it starts by listening to the hopes and dreams of our stakeholders, regardless if they're people who are deaf, youth in a favela, Palestinian refugees. It's all about listening to them. So our products were invented by people who are deaf. I can't screw in a light bulb. Our products, the hearing aid batteries, last 2 to 3 years versus 1 week. And we have an environmental saving. You think of that's one of the second levels besides empowerment and inclusion. The second level is we save over 200 million batteries being thrown out every year. Next slide. So again, every single project I've worked on, the center square of its social mission is education. It's all about education. As I mentioned, getting a child hearing health, she can attend a public school, and it's only through education do you break the cycle of poverty. Next slide. Now I'll talk about the different social missions. Remember that second level of the 3-dimensional game? So in Botswana, with the profits from selling the hearing aids, we worked on HIV/AIDS education for people who are deaf. And we lowered HIV/AIDS from 38% to 10%, which is a really nice outcome. In Brazil, we give out free voice, language, and speech therapy. In China, we changed public policy that before Solar Ear existed, if you're deaf, you're only allowed to be an artist. If you're blind, you can only give massages. We changed public policy that deaf can now study and work in electronics. Also working on a project we're opening up, as Christina knows, in the UAE with deaf empowerment programs. And we're starting a nice program too at a very timely time in the Mideast with deaf Muslim, deaf Christian, and deaf Jewish kids in Israel. And if you think about it, and that have a peace building mission, if you think about it, people who are deaf, Muslim, Christian, and Jews, they share a common culture, which is the deaf culture. So they have more in common with each other than they do with their own religion or their own people. What a great place to start a peace building project. We're also looking to start a program with in Canada and Brazil with First Nation people with cross-border leadership. So the goal is to start 10 more Solar Ears in the next 5 years, each with 10 different social missions, and then we share it all together. Next slide. Solar Ear, again, Solar Ear, not Howard. Solar Ear has won all these awards. Again, all the products were invented by, manufactured by people who are deaf. It was deaf-led project, and they have won all these awards. Next. It was a couple of years ago in National Geographic, they wrote an article, Brilliant Echo Inventions, products that have changed the world. And one of the products they chose was our solar charger, again, invented by the people who are deaf. It's absolutely amazing what they have accomplished. Absolutely amazing. Next. So here's sort of the third level of our game, the empowerment of our people. So, again, 1 day a week, we don't work on making products. Work on communication programs, empowerment programs, confidence building. And what was really interesting when we opened up in Brazil, we had the workers from Botswana who are deaf come to Brazil. So just think about that. In one morning, they're living in their mud hut with no water, electricity in rural Botswana. They take a 747 airplane, their first flight from Johannesburg to Sao Paulo with confidence, because we worked on their confidence building for 5 years. They arrive in the city of Sao Paulo And by the way, there's more people in that airplane than there is in their village. Then they arrive in a city of Sao Paulo of 17 million people with confidence. So it was sort of the last part of their empowerment program, and the first part of the empowerment program for our workers who are deaf from Brazil, because it was the first time they ever had a teacher who was deaf. And they go, wow, I could be a teacher one day. And they were, because when we opened up in China, we sent the kids from Brazil to China as a way of replicating that three-dimensional game. The kids the young adults from Botswana too, they spoke a different sign language than the kids from Brazil do. The sign language is different around the world. So they had to invent language as they're teaching. They're just beautiful to watch. Again, it's part of the empowerment program. It was also the first time the people from Brazil had a teacher who was Black. People in Brazil who are Black tend to be the low end of the social economic spectrum. So it changed their perspective of what a person who's Black can do. And then we also taught, again, that social mission on HIV/AIDS. We taught that to the program in Brazil, and then to China, then to India. So it's all about replicating and scaling all three levels. So again, it was the last day of the empowerment program for the people from Botswana and the first day of the empowerment program for the people from Brazil. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic to watch. Next. So now I'm basically going to talk about lessons I've learned and mistakes I've made in different community projects and mistakes I've seen made in different programs. One of the key things I'd say is really to be invited, not just show up. I know one of the biggest problems, I was sent as a Canadian volunteer, and they had a very nice program that you're there for 2 years as a volunteer. You must train a local counterpart, and then you must leave. I've seen too many volunteer projects from Peace Corps, for example. The volunteer shows up in XYZ Rubber Boots, India, and the local villager says, who are you and what are you doing here? You really want to be invited. You want to find the opportunity in the problem of anything you're doing, not just solving a problem. And obviously, as we all know, we all have an empathetic mind, and you want to really find meaning in the job. It's not about you. And the best way, I've raised over, say, $30 million in the various projects I've worked on. And the key to doing that is really telling the story from the stakeholders' perspective. And you really want to get to the heart, then the mind, and then the wallet of the person you're trying to get the money from. Learn to tell. Storytelling is so powerful. Next. Another key to success for sustainable social business is community-based ownership. You want the ideas to come from the community. You want to find what the real problem is, and you want to solve that. And at all times, you want to build local capacity. I've seen too often projects that they come in with the best of intentions. They bring all the products and destroy local capacity, and then they leave. So it's all about educational, health, environmental, economic outcome and impacts of the project. It's really not about the project itself. It's all about the outcomes and impacts you're trying to get. Next. It's really key you take ego out of the equation, and become a listener. I can tell you, every time I made a mistake is bringing my North American liberal prejudice to a situation. And I'll give you a couple examples. I remember after 6 months of working in rural Botswana in this hearing aid project, I'm not very bright, as you know, and not good looking, and I realized people in Africa are Black. It took me 6 months to realize that. So I was saying, why are we making beige hearing aids? They're Black. So I ordered black shells for the hearing aids. I remember very vividly one of the people opening the box one morning and telling me in sign language, what's this? I said, look how smart Howard is. You're Black, black shells, black. Hey, what a great idea. And they said, no, Black is no good. Beige is quality. Black is no good. And they wouldn't even assemble the black shells. Okay? And you see that often too in China. People in China love to buy Nike shoes made in China versus the Chinese shoes. In Brazil, as Antonio knows, that it's a very big coffee culture. Yet Starbucks has taken over. Who knows why? Every project, every single project you must have an educational impact to it. Whenever I've opened up a social business and I have raised 100% of the money and written the business plans and given it to people, the projects have failed. So any social project I find now, I insist that the local counterpart invest some cash and in-kind contribution. So they're at risk. And you don't want to destroy the local market. I've seen too often, let's say Rotary clubs or Gates Foundation or UN organizations going to an African village in their white Land Rovers. They're bringing in 50 water pumps with the greatest intention of bringing clean water to a village. They install the water pumps in these 40 different villages, and they have fresh water, clean water, which is wonderful. They had their picture taken with the local people, and it's posted on their different websites. But what they didn't realize is often they don't train a local person how to repair that water pump. Two, they probably brought in water pumps from North America and put the local distributor of water pumps out of business. So it's really a matter of thinking this whole thing through and trying to build local capacity, not destroy local capacity. And again, over and over again, with the best of intentions, I have made, and I think we all have made, mistakes along the way by not listening, not empowering the local community. Next. Again, mistakes I've made. Ego, again, bringing my North American culture. Another story, I remember in Botswana, one of our women was beaten up by one of our women who were deaf was beaten up by a hearing guy. I said, look, you should take the guy to tribal court. So we went to tribal court, and the tribal leader told the guy he had to apologize to our women worker, which is a big thing in Africa for a man to apologize in Botswana to a woman in court. We went back to our village, and everyone in the village was mad at us in this village because they believed that women had the right to be beat up. So no one would talk to our worker or myself for about 6 months. So it's really important that we don't bring our own culture to the situation, and we have to accept whatever the local culture is. Just 100% accept it and build on it. You don't want to hire somebody you can't fire. And when mistakes happen, you don't want to should have, could have, would have on yourself. You don't want to shit on yourself, basically, because you're going to make mistakes. Next slide. So again, in most projects you're working on, you're going from this vicious cycle of the stakeholders you're working with a lack of education, lack of inclusion, or hearing loss, to this virtuous cycle, one of inclusion, one of hearing health, one of education, one of employment. And it really doesn't matter the project you work on. You're starting with the vicious cycle, and you're going to this virtuous cycle. And the key really is to listen to the stakeholders. Listen to the stakeholders. I'll give you an example. I did a project in a favela in Rio de Janeiro. And again, I come from Montreal, Canada, and first time at favela. And I ask the people there, tell me about your life. So they talk about being poor, and the face of poverty is very similar with favela in Brazil, Northeast, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Africa. Then I say, what are your hopes and dreams? And I basically write their hopes and dreams into a business plan. So, for example, with this project in Rio, we sat down, they told me like 15 different problems. So I went back to them a few weeks later, said, here's some ideas from different businesses you can run from the ideas you gave me. They were complaining that oil in the house was clogging the drains. I said, okay, why not take so they chose taking the oil from the drains and making soap. They talked about the pollution and the dirt and the newspapers all over the favela. I said, okay, let's take, so of the 15 ideas, let's take the newspapers and make recyclable paper. And the other project they took was photography of the 15 projects. They wanted to sort of express their voice was through the camera. So I wrote a business plan and said, okay, let's take the soap, let's take the oil, make soap. Let's package it in decorative packaging. Let's take pictures of the favela, put it on the packaging, and sell it to the tourists. So we created 3 sustainable businesses for 60 kids in the favela, which was fantastic. It was quite strange too, and Alberto can relate to this. So in the day, I'm working with the kids in the favela. At night, I go back to my hotel, which is all gated off, to protect me from the kids I was just working with. It's really a very strange feeling. Next slide. I'm very lucky. I'm so fortunate that with our workers who are deaf, or the kids in favela, or the Palestinian refugees, and again, I was born Jewish and I work with them, not a problem. I get to see love made visible through their work. I thank you and welcome any questions.
Well, Howard, the only words that come out, number one is inspiring. I think that we in the Rotary, we need to hear about their stories, because we also believe that these good examples need to be replicated. As a matter of fact, in the Rotary Foundation, we are taking the grants and taking a very close look at them, and we encourage the clubs and the Rotarians that when they have a program that has a methodology that already has some results that can be measured, that we encourage them to be replicated through our programs of a scale, which are very large grants that we offer to the foundation. But the idea is to take the good ideas and take it to the next level where they can serve more people. And we thank you because we see that some of your projects, as you said, you refer to the failures. Failures are lessons learned, right? So I believe that the great success that was in most of your projects is because you had the honesty to recognize those failures. In that way, you are a little bit like a millennial. You know, millennials are very unafraid of mistakes in trial and error. Gomath is here, and she can relate to that. That's a very distinct characteristic of the new entrepreneurs, that they are able to take risks and take risks in complex issues, like some of the ones that you have already mentioned to us. So I believe that this is a very useful your testimony here to your projects today, and we have probably will have some questions. Carl has his hand raised. So Carl.
Carl?
Oh.
Sorry, where's Carl?
Hello, Carl.
Okay, I'll read first the first question. There's one question in the Q&A.
Yes, go ahead, Christina.
Yeah, it's from Alice. This solar ear is interesting. We will save the Mother Earth instead of using batteries that can affect our environment. What about the cost effectiveness among third world countries or not so rich resource countries like the Philippines? Okay, that's the question. Howard.
Great question. And I've been to the Philippines where there's a large hearing loss. So let me explain what we do for Solar Ear. What I do is I donate all the technology, help write the business plan and cash flow with the local counterpart, give it 100% to them so they can run the sustainable hearing aid manufacturing place as long as they hire and empower people who are deaf, and the deaf become part of the owners of the operation locally. And this company, again, the cost of hearing aids is about $50. and we sell it for $100. So it really is affordable for, say, the lower middle class. In Brazil, it's only the wealthy, the class A, who can afford a hearing aid. Here we can have hearing aids. Actually, we can sell a hearing aid with battery and charger cheaper than people pay for batteries only, which is wonderful. So you're really appealing to a lot of people. I'll just tell you briefly about our next program I'm working on now. It's even more disruptive. I mentioned one of the problems was you couldn't. There are no people to test a person's hearing. So we're developing with Cambridge University the first hearing test.
To animals and stuff. Click on the windows, and if you don't hear a sound, put the animal to bed.
So I can do. And you can't hear that, but.
Did you hear a sound?
So at the end of
Click on another window.
at the end of 2 minutes, this can be a pharmacy, a micro entrepreneur, a Rotary Club. They're testing the teeth and eyes of kids around the world. We can test someone's hearing using a cell phone, their cell phone. Okay, just download my app. And what we'll be able to remotely program the child's cell phone to become a hearing aid using earbuds. So now the child can put the phone on the desk and hear their teacher, and that'll cost $1. It's really going to disrupt the whole hearing aid industry, which is great. Because they're basically, the hearing aid industry is basically pigs. They're making products that cost $50 and selling it for $2,000 to $20,000. The hearing aid industry is a $10 billion industry, and the vision industry is a $157 billion industry. Yet there's more people with a hearing loss than a vision loss. So you just see how tightly controlled it is by these 4 or 5 very strong capitalist companies with a mission of wealth to their shareholders and not the people. So if any of you want to start a solar ear, I'm happy to help you start one there and give you all the technology.
Wow, that's interesting.
I hope that answered the question.
Alice is raising her hand. Yes, Alice, you can talk.
No camera because I'm online. I am the Dr. Fidel Malbas. He's one of my students. I've been in the academic profession from the University of the Philippines and so on for the past 30 years or so. So I've been with a lot of students from veterinary medical doctors to with technologies to now I'm teaching medicine. Even I'm a vet in the microbiology. So I've been seeing some students that are really very good, but some of them are already developing some hearing loss. I'm just curious if prior to this, Mr. Howard, did you do any possible animal experimentations prior to the use of this kind of hearing aid? Because we are also, Dr. Fidel Malbas and I, who is a Rotarian from the Philippines, is involved with the lab animals because animals would have different hearing, what you call it, in terms of the kilohertz that a human can tolerate. So probably in the discovery of some of this, what you call it, new technologies, I'm really so amazed because I know this can help the mother, or this can help a lot of people, empower people with what you're doing. But I still have questions regarding the acceptance, especially from the Philippines where dollars are really so high, and it's so hard to be buying them. So I hope in the future you can make this hearing aid more affordable, not only to the middle income, but the lower strata, because we're still very, very intelligent people among the group, but among the lower strata. So if that would happen, I go with you with education. I so believe what education can do. So I have been an educator, so that's why I was so happy when I was a hitchhiker, quote unquote, with Dr. Fidel Malbas, because he wanted me to listen some of this because I need it in my teaching profession. Thank you, Dr. Howard. Can I hear from you regarding this?
Okay, there was a bit of an echo, so if somebody can just, maybe Christina, just tell me the question shortly. I couldn't hear that whole.
I'm sorry, because I live near Baman Laguna, where we have a lot of mountains. So I'm sorry if you're not able to hear me, but can I just write in the chat box? Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
I'll read it from the chat box. This solar year is interesting. We will save the Mother Earth instead of using batteries that can affect the environment. What about the cost effectiveness among third world countries, or not to say rich resource countries like the Philippines?
Yes, I think I mentioned that question earlier, and Howard answered that, and I'll have another question. Yeah, but there are other questions also in the chat group, Alberto. There's
Yes,
another.
Carol Laundry is asking, how do you deal with corruption and bribes? We have run into this issue, which is very difficult because no one wants to pay, but it can stop the local project.
It's a great question. So a few things. One, I don't deal with any governments. B, I'm dealing with local counterparts who have invested their own money. So those two things tend to eliminate corruption. And we don't pay any bribes. And as soon as we're asked to pay a bribe or backsheesh, or whatever they want to call it, we just stop the project. If they start that way at the beginning, we won't start. But having a local counterpart at risk and putting their own money in certainly helps, and not dealing with any government.
I have a question here that was sent to my private. How have Rotary Foundation helped the project, if that has been the case, and how Rotary is related to the project?
Rotary is sort of, well, we once got a Rotary grant, global grant in Brazil. We were able to fit 180 students in a school in this town in Brazil. I think where Rotary can help is sort of with our new program. Rotary tests the eyes and teeth of over 2 million children a year. Why not test their hearing? Hearing loss is the third biggest disability in the world today. You know,
for your information, yeah, Howard, as I mentioned before, the programs of a scale is something that might be useful. If you can find a Rotary Club that has had some of this grant experience and that can be replicated, that this is something that could be a good candidate.
There's another question.
Okay,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
What is the age the solar hearing aid is recommended? From Raghu. Yeah, question from Raghu. Yeah.
Newborn upwards. And the real key is helping anyone under 5 years old, because that's we're going to have, again, the educational, the health, the social, the economic outcomes and impacts. Getting an old person like me hearing aid is going to change nothing in society. I have speech, I have education, I have, so it's all about the children in developing countries, giving them the educational opportunities, and which will change their life and their family's life.
Okay. I have a question, Howard. So which year did you start this project?
In 2002 in rural Botswana. Again, written the hopes and dreams of 10 women who are deaf in rural Botswana. It's all based on their hopes and dreams.
It's nice. I'm always an avid fan of social entrepreneurs. Okay, and that's why I implement that to my company as well. So
I'll tell you how it sort of started, which interesting little project. So as you saw in the video earlier, I ran a plumbing business in Montreal, Canada. In the middle of the night, my daughter Sarah died of a brain aneurysm. I went back to work the next week, and the nice people fired me because I couldn't make a profit for them, even though I started the company and sold it to them. So I figured I had these skills as a business person. Why not go to Africa, help women earn a salary? Because women generally take care of the health and education of their children. And it sort of gave meaning to my daughter's death. So I went as a Canadian volunteer to rural Botswana. And so I'm in an empty office. No people, no products, no money, just there to start a business. I had no idea what it would be. There was a knock at the door my first day in this office. There was a lady with a teenage girl. And the lady said, my student here, Sarah, with the same name as my daughter, needs a hearing aid. So it took me about 30 seconds to answer. I say, okay, Sarah's going to get a hearing aid. So I went to talk to Sarah at the School for the Deaf the next week, asking her about her life, hopes and dreams. And the business plan was based on their hopes and dreams. When we eventually raised the money, I went back to Sarah at the School for the Deaf. I said, okay, now you want a job? Here's a job for women who are deaf. You can invent the first rechargeable hearing aid. When we hired Sarah, it turned out that her birthday was the exact same day and year as my daughter, Sarah. So just, it's sort of meant to be.
That's nice. That's a nice story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very nice story and very
It's a
inspiring
sign.
again.
It's
There
a
is another question. There is another question here. From Fidel Malvas. What are the usual problems that you encounter with regards to the technology in solar ears?
Well, in developing the low-cost hearing aids and solar charger, again, just listening to the stakeholders. I remember we had some engineers come in from South Africa. They read the business plan of starting a solar-powered hearing aid company, and they came in with a solar panel, the size bigger than my laptop. And Sarah and the workers who are deaf are saying, "Hey, that's too big. How do we make it smaller? How do we add 2 holes to the charger so I can charge my batteries and another hole for the hearing aid?" So as long as it's stakeholder led and empowered, the technology works. It just works. The hearing aid, again, we buy the components from the same place everyone else does and put them together. That's no big deal. Our new program, our new digital health program, we're working with different universities who have the technology, like Cambridge University, to develop this new holistic hearing health program using a cell phone.
Interesting. I'm very much interested with your gadget because, as a recruiter and consultant with the UAE government, I had an experience of interviewing 50 mute and deaf for 2 days. It was really difficult for me because it's different nationality. So they're using different sign language, and I have to have an interpreter with me. So that's why when I met Andy, I said, "Oh, that's amazing." That's a very interesting product. So I hope to.
Yeah. I remember the first day of training from Botswana to Brazil. It was sort of like the first deaf to deaf, south to south technical training program. Most technical training is north south. Someone from the US going to Angola, here's our technology. It's really south north, someone from Bolivia going to Japan teaching them. Here's the first south south deaf to deaf program. And it was fascinating. I remember the first day, actually Sarah wrote on the blackboard the word capacitor. So I remember seeing our workers from Brazil opening their English-Portuguese dictionary, seeing what the word was in Portuguese. Then together, both the people from Brazil who were deaf and the people from Botswana had to invent a common sign language. It was just fascinating to watch.
Yes, we have a Rotarian, is a former Rotarian by club who is, she is a Libras interpreter, which is the name of the sign language here in Brazil. And her husband was born deaf, okay, and he was also our Rotarian fellow, and it was very interesting because our meetings were kind of like Kaka was president, and she was giving her introductions and so forth, and Barbara was translating for Joaquin in the middle of the meeting. And it was very interesting to see the interaction. And the best part was when he was responding, because he could speak, and of course he had some hearing aids for very expensive power, by the way. And it is amazing the level of attention and concentration that that these individuals have, and how they listen, and they can stay focused of what
Well, yeah.
they say.
Well, a very important part, one of the reasons we hire people who are deaf is not because we're good people. People who are deaf speak in sign language, and because they speak in sign language, their hand-eye coordination is better than 99% of the oral population, and we need that special ability for the micro soldering, the electronic components in the hearing aid and the charger. So a lot of the projects I've worked on with people with disability, I say, look, let's start with their ability and go from there. So for example, projects with people with Down syndrome, that people with Down syndrome are fabulous in repetitive tasks. So we started a landscaping program, a gardening program, which generated money. So it's all a matter of looking at the ability of the person and not the disability, looking at the whole person.
Yes. Excellent, excellent. I have
Any
found
more
here,
questions or?
well, more than a question, a comment.
Sure.
I found here this.
Swajit is erasing his hand.
I found this. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, it's not showing. There's a black thing. I cannot see it. Yeah. Oh,
Now
Yes.
you can see it, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
That's an article on solar aid that appeared here in Brazil in 2011. The translation is "A Voice to be Heard." And it describes pretty much what Howard has described here today. I knew you from somewhere, okay, because I remember Exame, that magazine is very popular here in Brazil, and he had a 3-page article on this. So, Howard, thank you very much for being with us here today. Well, we have we have a raised hand here.
Miss
Let me
Swajit.
corrupt here.
Hello, Howard.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm Vishwajit. I lead the RAGCED Partnership Committee. And, first of all, I want to congratulate you for building such a wonderful social business. I think it's a case study in itself. Interestingly, Dr. Professor Yunus, he was in Brazil last week. And I think there was a very good response. I work with him in a few aspects, so that's why I found your story so engrossing. So I have 2 questions, Howard, for you. Number one is more like an interest. I think we are trying to drive partnerships across the world, where whatever we tie up can give an opportunity to Rotary clubs across the world. So we would love to have a partnership with you between RAGCED and your company, and we will be happy to promote that across RAGCED communities, if that's something of interest to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, thank you. And the second question is that you talked about social business, and of course, you talked about the maths around it. So to really propagate social business at scale, are you able to, generate enough uh, revenues so that you can scale it up globally? Because what happens is companies with deep pockets are able to scale up their businesses because of the profits that they generate. But you keeping it so frugal, how are you able to scale it, or are you happy with the amount of scalability that you have achieved?
Very much so. And the scalability really came from the local partners. Somebody coming to me from the UAE or India or China. Hey, I would like to replicate Solar Air. I'm prepared to invest XYZ of cash and ABC of infrastructure. So and then I'll help them raise the balance. So it's really it's not like a big company where I can go in and invest, for my own cash flow, $4 million to open up a factory. Here, it's coming locally, and the cost to open up one is anywhere from say $400,000 to $1 million, depending where you are. So it's not a lot of money to raise locally. And then the beauty of it, go ahead.
Sorry, I spoke over you. So in this case, you provide the technology to manufacture these equipments locally in the country?
Yes. And help write the business plan, help write the cash flow, help the local counterparts as long as they're investing. And by the way, I was very fortunate. Dr. Yunus helped me with our mobile program, explaining what pricing we should have for a micro entrepreneur to do a hearing test in their village. He's, as you know, a lovely, egoless person.
last week?
I'm sorry?
Well, Howard, thank you very much.
Did you meet him this week?
A few times.
As a matter of fact, Mohammed Yunus was here in Brazil last week, and he is an honorary member of a Rotary Club in Bangladesh. And Howard, we thank you very much for your presentation and for the dialogue that we have here. It's very enlightening to see how you took this social entrepreneurship opportunity to solve problems and to also enable people around the world to have a better life. So we thank you for it. And I turn it over to Christina Calagian, my boss in RAGCED.
Thank you, Alberto. I guess we are at the end of our program. But before that, we have some announcements from Gamati. Want to say?
Yeah, before I could, do my announcements. Rakesh, is there anything that you'd like to share about our upcoming event?
Yeah, there are a couple of events that are coming up. The next event, in fact, is going to be the West Asia Project Fair. So I would welcome, and RAGCED is leading the promotion of that particular event. So I would request all of you to also participate. It's online, so you can participate along with your friends, encourage them to join and see wonderful innovations coming out. And I would also welcome Harvard to also be a part of it. It's going to be amazing. You've done great. You've done a lot of great works and projects in Africa. I'm sure that this would interest you to develop partnerships, because we also had a person over here from Bulawayo who was asking about, your product being sold in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. So I kind of see that there are a few other countries in Africa that would need your help. So you being a part of this project fair would really help. And post that, in the middle of November, we're going to be having the RAGCED webinar, which is going to be the All Rag series. We have another series of webinars where we promote other RAGs as well. That is Rotary Action Groups, the other RAGs that we have. And so that was supposed to be happening tomorrow, but since Christina's webinar was here and we didn't want to have two RAGCED events happening at the same time, so we kind of moved that to next month. Though this month was supposed to be the RAGCED month. Anyways, I also, before I end, I also wanted to thank Howard for making time and speaking in this webinar. And most of all, I would like to introduce Howard to the RAG for hearing, which focuses on the similar aspect of disablement that you are addressing right now. And at the same time, in conclusion with what Biswajit said, we would like to partner with you, and we would also like to promote the manufacturing of this product of yours in many other countries to improve community economic development there, and at the same time to also rehabilitate people who have been, I would say, missing this great gift that all of us share and so well enjoy. So thank you very much for everything that you've been doing. And thanks to all the guests and all the members of RAGCED who have participated in this. I would also like to acknowledge my friends from India who have joined, Tejshwani and Raghu. You've been great inspirations. I would also like you to take this forward in your district and your clubs. Both of you belong to the same club, I know. So please do speak about this great product and how this can be promoted in your district and club as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rakesh. Biswajit, do you have something?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Howard, for your time and your knowledge and your skills. Anyone who's interested to keep in touch with Howard, you can send message to our RAGCED website and Gumati will...
Info@ragced.org.
Yeah, info, okay? What? Info@ragced.org. Okay? Thank you, Alberto, for accepting my invitation to host this program. Gumati, thank you as well. And Rakesh for supporting the program, the whole committee behind this webinar. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We have another session next month, but I have to discuss it with Rakesh and Gumati so we don't overlap all the, all the programs now that we're having. Again, thank you and good evening. Hope to see you again, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
I just on the
Thank you.
announcement.
Yeah.
On the announcement topic, we have a live with our president-elect Stephanie Orshik on October 30th. Okay. And I tried to upload the image here in the chat, but Gumati, the privileges of loading documents is not set up in your chat. So, but for those interested,
you are the co-host. I made you the co-host.
Yeah, but for some reason it only allows from the Google Drive.
I need to actually reach out to you on the Zoom account as well. So maybe when we find the time, we'll discuss a couple of things.
Very good. But anyways, all of you, October 30th is going to be, let me see, what is the time? Hold on a second. It will be 15 hours UTC. So you calculate your local time. For instance, it's going to be 8:30 p.m. in Delhi. It will be 4 p.m. in Abuja and noon in Brasilia and 11 a.m. in Miami, New York City. So September 30th, we'll see you in a one-on-one with Stephanie Orshik.
Oh yeah, the event with Oswem and you guys. Yeah. Okay.
Oswem is the organizer.
Yeah.
Who was here earlier.
Yeah, he was here earlier.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And good evening,
very nice meeting you, Howard.
Howard, I'll be
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
See
you,
you all in the
everyone.
next
Thank you,
webinar.
Alberto. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, Biswawi.
Thank you, Christina. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.